Hi there, it's Jeff Soroga from Tinker Forward. Today I'm going to be changing the rear brake pads on my 2012 Dodge Grand Caravan. I've been changing brakes for a while, and compared to calling one of our local mechanics here, they were going to charge me $350 to do brake pads and rotors on my vehicle. You can go to a local auto parts store, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, probably pick up some rear brake pads for probably somewhere around $25 to $30. See if you can use a coupon or a coupon code. You should be able to get some brake pads for around that price, saving yourself quite a bit of money. It's actually a fairly simple project to do. You just need a few tools. If you haven't changed brakes before, I'm going to show you exactly what I do. Probably estimate somewhere around an hour or so to get the job done, and maybe learn something new in the process. Okay, we're going to start off by loosening the lug nuts on the tires. Before we jack the car up, we're going to want to use a lug nut wrench, or if you've got a torque wrench, and go ahead and not take off the lug nuts completely, but just get them so that they are loosened. As you're doing this, you're going to notice the wheel is going to move. We want to do this while the car is, or while the van is still down on the ground, so you're not moving it around when it's jacked up. Before jacking the car up, I would recommend putting the parking brake on in the front. That's going to help stabilize the car a little bit. I would also recommend that once you get the van jacked up, you use something like a jack stand. Now, if you don't have a jack stand, if you have something else that's solid, again, maybe another block of wood, or if you've got something that you can put next to your floor jack here, just in case while the van is jacked up, your floor jack fails or it gets knocked loose or something. You don't want the car coming down on you. So having something like a jack stand is going to give you that extra security. And I just want to get it so that the tire is off the ground enough where I can remove it from the vehicle. I'm going to insert my jack stand. And now I'm going to go back. I actually have an impact wrench here to kind of speed things up a little bit. I put a 19mm socket on here for my lug nuts, and I'm going to go ahead and finish removing those lug nuts. Now, I would recommend that wherever you are putting your lug nuts, put them in a little tray or a bin or something so that you don't lose these guys as you're taking them off your tire. So with my lug nuts off, in this instance, the tire is actually fairly loose. Now, sometimes you get a stubborn wheel that wants to stick onto the van and you can't seem to, it won't just fall off like this. So what I've done in these instances is I went to Lowe's or Home Depot. You can buy yourself a 2x2 board. I think I cut the thing to about 3 feet or so. And what I would do if this wheel wasn't coming off right away is I would take this, put it behind the tire. I'd get myself a rubber mallet, and I would pound behind the wheel until the wheel would come loose, and that would allow me to pull the wheel off. Okay, so now we're on to the caliper. The caliper has got 2 bolts, one right here and one right here, that you're going to want to remove. That's going to allow this top piece of the caliper, which is holding your 2 brake pads here, to come out. There's actually a 13mm socket, and I'm going to put that right onto the caliper bolt, and I'm going to try and pry that off. So to give myself more leverage with my socket wrench here, I've got myself about a 1.5 foot long pipe. This is actually made out of aluminum, but you could probably get a steel pipe. And what I'm going to do is insert it over the socket wrench, and that kind of extends the amount of space I have to work with it. And then when I put it on my bolt here, I'm going to make sure I set it so that I can then use this as I am trying to loosen the bolt. And now I've got a lot more to work with here. Now once you get it, once you break the bolt free, you don't really need the spacer bar anymore. and you can just use the actual socket, but that's really helpful in getting those tight bolts loose. So we're going to remove this top bolt, and then we're going to remove this bottom caliper bolt here. You want to be careful that as you take off this caliper top piece here, you don't just let it hang down. So I'm going to remove my second caliper bolt here. Alright, so I got both the bolts off of my caliper. This caliper here has got this piston, and that piston is pushing against your brake pads, and that's what's causing your vehicle to stop. So this whole thing is kind of compressed right now, but we're going to want to remove this caliper from the pads so that we can remove the bad pads and replace it with some new ones. I used a rubber hammer. Other cars I've worked on, you can use a clamp to just compress the piston in there. This piston actually turns when you're trying to compress it into the brake pad. So what I did is I actually bought a caliper wind back kit. Essentially the way this caliper wind back kit works is the grooves that are on that piston, you have to find something that's going to lock into those to twist that piston back. This particular disc here is going to get inserted into this screw back piece, and then you're going to use this to push back the piston. It fits nicely and it does the job. Something that's a little cheaper that would also work that I've bought in the past is you can buy one of these little cubes, and these cubes have all the notches on them as well, different notches for different vehicles. You have to find the right one that is going to work with the piston that you're trying to push back. Alright, so we're going to work on compressing this piston. So first I'm going to show you here, if you go the route with buying the cube I found the two notches that are going to fit best in this groove. If you go ahead and attach that to your socket wrench here, and then you find where those two pieces are going to fit in your groove, that's going to allow you then to use your socket wrench here to start turning the piston, and as you can see, it is turning. It's actually compressing back in there. The disadvantage to using this cube is it kind of falls out. Like you. We've got all our brake pads off. If we are going to replace the rotor, we can't get the rotor out until we remove this bracket. Now this bracket, just like the caliper top piece there, has two more bolts that are holding the bracket into place. Okay, here's another closer view of our bolts holding our bracket in. There's a bolt right here. There's a bolt down here. I was able to fit a 18mm socket around these bolts, which we're going to need to use to remove them so we can remove our bracket. Alright, I got my socket wrench, putting my extender bar on. We're going to remove these bolts. Alright, there's our 18mm bolt. We're going to take the other one out. Alright, so I'm working on my other bolt here, and it is stuck on there pretty good. I have some of this multi-purpose penetrating lubricant, which I just sprayed a little bit on that bolt, let it sit for just a couple of minutes here. That is eating away at all the rust and everything that's holding the bolt on. Now when I am going ahead and trying to turn the bolt, it has loosened it up. So I was able to get this bolt loose. There's our other bolt. Both bolts loose. I can pull the bracket off. Now my rotor is free, where I can just pull it off. Now sometimes the rotor is also kind of stuck on where it's probably rusted. At that point, again, I would take some sort of a hammer and just pound that guy until it comes loose. Alright, so just doing a little comparison here of our rotors. This is the rotor that I just pulled off. You can see all the grooves. You can see how it is rusted. I bought some CarQuest Platinum rotors here. These are actually painted on the inside, which is supposed to help here with the rain and the snow. We're in Wisconsin, so you know, obviously our rotors here are going to rust out from all the rain and the snow. They've also painted on these the very edges to kind of help. You'll see how much shinier this rotor is than the other one. It's nice and smooth. There's no grooves on it. That's the difference here with your old rotor and your new rotor. So I'm going to replace with my new rotor here. Shiny. Okay, then we're going to reattach our bracket using our bolts. I bought some of this aluminum anti-seize lubricant here. I'm going to apply this to all my bolts as I'm putting them back on to help them from rusting and having kind of that problem when I was removing the bolt from the bracket here. It just kind of helps cut down on your bolts sticking to the brackets, to the calipers, and things like that. Alright, so I got my brake pads back on here. I had to use my hammer to kind of pound them in a little bit. They were snug fit. I'm going to use some of this brake lubricant here, and I'm going to put it on the back of the pads. It's supposed to help reduce any squeaking from the caliper pushing up on those pads. Alright, so now I'm going to reattach my caliper. So I've got it unhooked here. We're going to put it back over our brake pads. I got my bolts lined up. Have my 13mm socket on here. We're going to go ahead and tighten these guys up. Okay, pads are on, new rotors on. Okay, I'm going to replace our tire. Tighten our lug nuts back up. When I'm tightening them back up, I'm actually going to do it in a star pattern. Helps fasten the wheel evenly back on. Alright, now that I've got the lug nuts snug, I don't have them fully tightened, I'm going to go ahead and bring my van back down. Alright, so with the van on the ground now, I've got my torque wrench, and again, you can buy these at any auto parts store. You probably get these at Walmart and such. I'm going to use my torque wrench. I've got it set to 100 foot-pounds. That's what I was reading online. And I'm going to go back here and I'm going to tighten these lug nuts in a star pattern to that 100 foot-pounds so that they are secure. You're going to repeat the exact same process for the wheel that's on the other side to change those brakes. When you've got both tires back on, you're going to want to pump the brakes several times to make sure that you tighten up anything that's loose. When you feel the brake pedal tightening up inside the van, then you're ready to go. I will take the van out on a side street here going like 1 or 2 miles per hour, very slow, constantly pumping the brakes repeatedly to make sure that it's stopping, and then gradually go a little bit faster, testing the vehicle brakes. Again, not going more than probably 5 or 10 miles per hour, driving around several blocks to make sure that everything's working great, and then take it out on some roads going a little bit faster. That's pretty much all there is to changing your rear brakes. It does take a little bit of time, but I was able to save myself some money. Hopefully you can use some of these tips as well to save yourself some money. And now you know how to do your own maintenance on your car, which can be a great feeling. So thanks so much for checking out this video. Check out the other videos we have on Tinker Forward, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.